The gang stalking of our people is very real. Do not think because one is a celebrity he can't be stalked as well or have obstacles put in his way. Look no further than LeBron James, who destroys the American value system. A man that grew up without a father. A man that skipped college, came straight from high school, and did it better than anybody else. Don't let them fool you. Even his businesses. A man that proves you don't need their system to make it. There is a million graduates, none of them as successful as LeBron James, business-wise, athletic-wise, or any sense of the matter. Do you understand how much money the colleges missed out on from this man going from high school directly to the NBA? Millions, some would even say billions. LeBron said that skipping the college level for him was strictly a financial matter. He stated the only one that benefited from this decision was the Ohio State University, where they'd make all the money and him and his mom that was in poverty would have to suffer. You have to understand what's going on here. Now, this is a direct quote. That 23 jersey would have been sold all over the place. Without his name on the back, my body would have been on the NCAA floor. The arena would have sold out every single night. Me and my mom didn't have anything, and we wouldn't be able to benefit at all from it. The university would have became even more rich. Now, this is just ridiculous. When it comes to college players receiving financial benefits from their respective sports, the state of California made history after they signed a bill that would enable college athletes to sign endorsement deals. And yes, a lot of that is because of LeBron James and how much money that they lost from LeBron James. The whole going straight from high school to the NBA being banned is a result of LeBron James. Because if you look at all the players, LeBron James, they all got one thing in common, all the high school players. They were great, they lasted, and they all were men of color. I don't know one person that went from high school to the NBA that wasn't a man of color. That's why they paint LeBron James as a lovable loser. Been to 10 finals, lost 6 of them, and won 4. And we all know the NBA controls the game. Most of us understand or believe that this game isn't on the up and up. Now, in contrast, if you look to their boy, you got the People's Champ, which the media even turns the people against LeBron. Their boy was Michael Jordan, the most institutionalized player that there's ever been. But LeBron is stronger. He beats him on everything that he can do on his own. He can't decide to have a Scottie Pippen play for him for years. He can't decide the refs to give him all the breaks. And I believe that's the difference between LeBron and Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan is a great player, but no doubt about it, he was their boy. He was, and I don't mean that racist, he was their guy. He was their champion. He did everything the right way, or should I say the liked way. Went to college, relied on the system, didn't try to be his own GM. If you let it up to them, LeBron would have stayed in Cleveland with no help, going against players with multiple all-stars on their team. If you look at the Michael Jordan's Bulls team, they almost won it all without him. LeBron teams fall apart as soon as he leaves. Then the hate trumped up of him leaving when Cleveland wasn't trying to do nothing. LeBron got smart. He looked at afar. Okay, Cleveland got some pieces. I'm going to come back because he had love for his city when the fans burnt his jerseys and treated him like the biggest traitor ever. When he couldn't win in Cleveland, he didn't have no help in Cleveland. And then you got people like Skip Bayless. Skip Bayless has literally made a living off of talking bad about LeBron. And they love for him to talk bad about LeBron because he's a kid without a college degree. He's a basketball player that didn't deal with the institution, and he does things his way. He doesn't sit there like a good boy and wait for the owners to make a decision. Now let's get into a couple of quotes. Headlines read, "The GOAT always needs an excuse, a finger to point." There was no talk about LeBron until this happened. Now, you can't help if a player you pass it to misses it or makes it, but they make it seem like LeBron was wrong for even taking the chance, even though every single thing LeBron has done to win the championship, Mike has done to win the championship. Mike didn't always take the last shot, and Mike wasn't always successful. Now, Skip Bayless had made such a living saying that LeBron was a born loser, he would never win, that when LeBron started winning, Skip couldn't stop. He would never give LeBron the credit. This is what happens when you build your reputation and your empire off the back of another. This man that went from high school to the NBA has built many careers, even the people that hate on him as a career. And all these different teams would have loved to have LeBron, and he's won everywhere. Now, if you look at the first team that he was going against, you had Ray Allen, you had Kevin Garnett, and you had Paul Pierce. Those are three great stars. Each one of them was a star of their own team. Not only that, but they meshed very well together. They seem to have a very unselfish spirit, at least betwixt the three of them. How LeBron gonna beat this team when his best player is Ilgauskas? Let's just be honest here. Here you when your best player is Ilgauskas, you're going against Ray Allen, sharpshooter, Paul Pierce, good shooter, and Kevin Garnett, maybe the best defensive player ever, not to mention Rondo. So when he decides to go to Miami and put his own team together, everybody hated it, but it was media driven because they didn't want to see this. Now you see players like Tom Brady doing the same thing, recruiting people to their team, and he's a genius for doing it. But when LeBron did it, it was he didn't want to compete. You can't compete with diamonds with manure. Everybody gonna want that shiny thing instead of that stinking dirty thing every time. Now, Scottie Pippen, who was one of the best defensive players, always took the toughest person on the team, much like LeBron did, but it wore him out every game. At the end of the game, he's tired. Scottie Pippen, who was MVP of the All-Star. Scottie Pippen, who was a great scorer. Scottie Pippen, at this time, was considered the second best player in the league. The Bulls had help, not to mention Rodman. These are Hall of Famers. Not to mention Horace Grant. Not to mention Bill Cartwright. Not to mention Steve Kerr. These are players that played years upon years. And not to mention Phil Jackson, the great coach. Not to mention the dean of North Carolina, who already schooled Michael Jordan. Now, what does it look like for the NBA to have a high school player coming out without no schooling from Dean, ain't no head coaching for Phil Jackson, and setting the world on fire, the best player in the last 10 to 20 years? Now, a lot of people say the business Rich Paul has started is something that LeBron has his hand in. And let's get into this, because they recently decided that they was going to change the way it's done. Now you need a certification, a process for sports agents who wish to represent college basketball players. The new rule comes as a part of the recommendations made by the Commission on College Basketball. Why is that? Because a brother without even a college degree, Clutch Sports, Rich Paul, has the most successful agency for sports athletes this day. So then they said you needed to have a bachelor degree. You understand how this works? This thing is set up for you to have nothing, and LeBron is influencing too many people. And that's why they made sure his Lakers team lost like they did this year, because he put this Laker team together. And he was getting credit for being a good GM, in which Michael Jordan is a horrible one. You got to connect the dots. Now, Rich Paul had to actually take on the NCAA because they was trying to basically move the finish line. He already passed the finish line. You trying to move it. Oh, we're going to redo this. Like taking Bush's reward back, his MVP back from college. Rich Paul came in with LeBron James. These aren't college students. These are people with ideas and had finances to meet their ideas and had the will and leaped their ideas into action. And guess what? You can do that too. So they put all these monkey wrenches in the program to try to stop you from doing that, to try to stop you from having role models that doesn't fit what their criteria is as a role model, because everything is about subduing and a majority rule. And once the majority starts believing something, the minority does not want to go against the majority, even if they don't agree with it. Now, what's scary about that is the media drives what's the majority and what's the minority.
I'm sure you've heard by now that LeBron James is en route to becoming a billionaire. In fact, Beats by Dre, Space Jam 2, and Liverpool FC are all investments LeBron has made or expects to make millions with.
You understand how this thing works? You understand how great nostalgia is to your head? That's what The Last Dance was about. If you look at the Tim Tebow situation, they had to bring in Peyton Manning, an old legend. That's what makes you forget about the new. This man did all this without a high school diploma. He dreamed his way out of his bad situation.
These men make up LBJ's inner circle: Rich Paul, Randy Mims, and Maverick Carter. NBA fans are certainly familiar with Rich Paul. After all, the NCAA created, and quickly rescinded, a rule unofficially named after the man. Not to mention, he founded Clutch Sports.
Make no mistake about this. Clutch Sports is a huge deal. It changed the way agencies are ran, and this is why they try to take this company and throw a wrench in this program, a monkey wrench in this program. Let's go.
An agency that represents stars such as Ben Simmons, Anthony Davis, and of course, LeBron Ramon James. Paul is undeniably a big deal. Maybe the most important non-player owner in sports today. Athletes want to be his clients, owners fear him like he's Heisenberg, and somehow he always receives what he and LeBron desire.
Now we all know there's a snake in the mist somewhere, because the devil always put Judas somewhere around you. Now I'm not implying that this is Rich Paul, but let's just say he gave Rich Paul the startup money to do all this, and they have a deal for him to take 50%, buy it once he leaves. Rich Paul may renege on that. It may be his wife taking half, but they're not going to let him be this successful without the bottom falling out somewhere. They put plants around people to take half a man's assets and split it with the divorced wife or the business partner. This is how this thing works.
But what about Mims and Carter? How did LeBron James take two high school buddies and a dude he met selling jerseys out of the trunk of his car and create an empire that would dominate the NBA?
This kid had a plan. And like I said, had the finances and the willpower to see it through. We all should take from this.
So, what do we know about Randy? Randy has known LeBron since the two were barely walking. They grew up in Akron and formed an unbreakable bond while living in the projects. When LeBron left to the NBA straight out of high school, Mims got a marketing degree and began working for AT&T. However, as we know now, he wouldn't be designing cell phone plans for too long.
I am sorry, but we all should admire and be impressed by this young kid from the ghetto who changed everybody's life around him.
The King soon brought him on as his personal assistant and manager, and he eventually became a player liaison for the Cavaliers. Now, per The Athletic, Randy is a member of the Lakers front office. Where LeBron goes, Randy is not far behind.
Now that's real mob ties, real family ties. When you bring your man up You put him in school, he gets in the front office of where you are at. That is family ties. And you should be admiring LeBron James way more than a Al Capone or some ish.
Maverick Carter is next. One of the most business-savvy members of the group. Like Randy, he has known James since the two were youngsters. In fact, they played ball together in high school.
Now back to the Stalkers. We already covered the Boston Celtics 3. All these teams in the NBA had 2 to 3 stars except the Cleveland Cavaliers. So when LeBron goes back to Cleveland, Kyrie Irving decides he doesn't want to play with him out of the blue. It was after they went on a big run. They just lost the NBA Finals. Kyrie is seen with the Warriors, which I thought was the strangest thing ever. Then all of a sudden, he demands a trade. Y'all think this was a coincidence? LeBron didn't want them to trade. They traded anyway. Kyrie threatened to have surgery if they didn't trade him. So they traded him for Isaiah Thomas, who just came off of an injury, and it just wasn't the same. Now don't think this is far-fetched just because you can't connect the dots. This is what I'm here for. Why is Westbrook all of a sudden Westbrook? Why Westbrook can't make a shot? Why none of these NBA players playing with the Lakers are any good? Why aren't any of them trying? Why do all these players say loudly, I don't want to go to LA and play with LeBron? A pass first player. You gotta open your eyes to what's really going on here. If you look at what LeBron built, the companies he built was to make him win agencies, because he's seen early that this ish is not on the up and up. I don't think it's ever have been. I don't think it's ever been on the up and up. Maybe the 70s, when a different team won every year. I just don't believe any of this is real. I believe it's all a soap opera for the most part. That last footage we just seen just shows volumes. It speaks volumes. These players that have been playing all their life, all of a sudden can't make a shot. You think LeBron don't know this is rigged? You think players playing this game don't understand what's going on? Come on, y'all. Y'all might think this is over, but we're just getting started here.
Did you know that the NBA League generates over $8 billion annually? The NBA is a big business, and running that business can involve vetoing trades, prolonging playoff series, and enabling big market teams to get high draft picks.
Let me guess. You want more proof? Well, I'm glad to provide that for you. If you look at the early 80s, where Magic Johnson magically, pun intended, ended up on the Lakers, and Larry Bird somehow ended up on the Celtics. Now, these are very contrast cities. One city is a very racist city. I know there's brothers and sisters there, but that city is traditionally racist. Another city in LA is traditionally like everybody's people are there. Some Mexicans, some blacks, some whites. Everybody's in LA. More cultural diverse place. Never mind the fact that these guys had a great game that was the most viewed game in college history. I think to this day, the NBA set them up to battle each other the next decade. Now, I believe the sports have been rigged, but the NBA in particular, I believe, became a soap opera at this point. It just became a straight up soap opera. A storyline driven sports entertainment. And boy, was it entertaining. And yes, it did in fact work. The NBA was bigger than it's ever been. And Michael Jordan did what these two did and took it to the next. After the Lakers and Celtics and the great teams of the 80s were getting older, after there's a bunch of great teams, There's not so great teams for a while. It takes a while to build them back up. And that's the era where Michael Jordan got everything done with his 6 rings. He didn't ever beat a team that was a 2-time champion or a team with as many All-Stars as he had or Hall of Famers. Now, to compare Michael Jordan to LeBron is very, very fair. But you have to start with the competition because LeBron faced way stiffer competition than what Michael Jordan faced. Michael Jordan faced players who had second jobs, who would get off from practice and go to work. Now, if y'all still want to believe this on Up and Up, will you guys in the comment section answer this for me? Why was Chris Paul stopped from playing with Kobe Bryant, but KD was allowed to join a 72-win team that only lost 10 times the whole year, and then got beat by LeBron and the Cavaliers in the finals? Then went and called Kevin Durant. Something ain't right here. I don't really think people get what this means. It would be the equivalent of, let's just say, Dominique Wilkins came and joined the Lakers. You know, it's madness. The best team for my money that the Bulls ever beat was the Seattle Sonics with Gary Payton and Sean Kemp. And you could say that team couldn't even compete with the top 5 teams of the 80s. That team couldn't have beat the Detroit Pistons. That team couldn't have beat the Lakers, the Showtime Lakers. That team couldn't have beat the Big 3 Celtics. That team couldn't have beat Moses Malone and Dr. J. It was a really good team, but not a great team. And that's the problem. Michael Jordan has never beat a great team. Magic Johnson has beat a great team. Larry Bird has beat a great team. LeBron James has beat a great team. But they talk about him like a dog. The media talks about him like a dog. And everybody in our community should be looking up, not trying to be just like him, because we about these laws of the Bible, but I'm talking about if you're going to look at somebody that wasn't dealt the perfect cards in life, who was given lemons and made lemonade out of it. I mean, the country fair lemonade, the roasted, he made some lemonade out of the lemons he was given. And the fact that these guys are on this guy's helmet is pathetic. Now I'm going to bring something else up. How all these players are great playing till they join LeBron, and all of a sudden they just shriek under the pressure. All of a sudden the light is too bright for them. You got your Kevin Loves. You got your Dwayne Wades. You got your Chris Bosh, who dropped off of a cliff when he joined LeBron James. And even Dwayne Wade, who they say was injured but played another 8 to 9 years. Like, they just fell off of a cliff. AD off of the cliff. This isn't no coincidence. No player beat the greatest players in the world and the refs at the same time. The gang stalking of LeBron James.
If you look here, it says the NBA Game Ball 1 is the closest to what is used by the pros every season. However, basketball is used for NBA games, may have unique specifications, digital technology, and or stricter quality controls or tolerances. So I want to take notice of digital technology. So a lot of people have questioned as of lately, and I've seen this become a lot more prevalent of a question. Are there magnets inside of the basketballs? Do I think so? Yes, definitely. Because I've seen after that Kawhi shot against the Sixers in 2019, I had no choice but to believe it. Because as many times I played basketball, I've probably seen a basketball be shot a million times. I'm gonna be real, because you gotta think of all the people I've seen shoot basketballs, all the shots I've taken, all the shots I've seen other people take. I'm pretty sure I've seen a basketball be shot a million times, over a million times probably, in my lifetime. And I'm only in my 20s. But I've never seen a basketball do what Kawhi's basketball shot did against the Sixers.